Oh, there's there we are.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. Welcome to Connection Cafe Yoga Journeys. My name is Yvonne, and I am a restorative and hatha yoga teacher with MoreYoga. And these Connection Cafe started through COVID, and obviously in the light of Black Lives Matter, MoreYoga wanted to find a way to amplify the voices of amplifying melanated voices. And I came up with the idea of interviewing teachers of color and finding out their yoga journeys. Same set questions, but the answers will be so varied. So each fortnight, I will be inviting a teacher of color to come and share their story. And I'm super excited this evening to have 𝗶𝗄 Alima with us.
One of you frozen? One, I think you're frozen.
And was one of the first instructors teaching with us at Camden, Finsbury Park, Caledonian Road, and Angel. 𝗶𝗄 teaches Rocket, Ashtanga, Vinyasa, Mandala, and Yin, and is a 500+ hour RYT, so it's a registered yoga teacher, for those who didn't know. Follow her at 𝗊𝗄ce_yogi. So there is the introduction to 𝗊𝗄ce. Welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm hot.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm trying not to look sweaty, but it's like, you know what? It's hot, so
try not to move too much because
yes, I'll try to be very still and still letting in a few people. So let's get cracking with your first question. So, honoring our ancestors, please tell us your family lineage.
My family, the ancestry leads back to Uganda. So I was actually born in Uganda.
Okay.
My family, we moved here when I was 6 years old. So I'm first generation immigrant, if you like. And so we moved to London, and I've been in London since. And so that's where my mum, in Uganda, it's more northern Uganda, so west of the Nile, if anyone knows that part. My family, majority of my family actually is still there. But yeah. And yeah, last time I went to visit was last year.
Wonderful, thanking you. So when, where, and with whom was your first yoga class?
This is the first one I recall enjoying, or the first ever class. I can't even
whichever you want to share. Remember, it's your conversation.
I think it's important to know that the first ever class that I showed, it was in a leisure centre, and I think it's important to kind of give the background because I didn't enjoy it at all. It was, you know, I just finished uni, moved back to East London, and it was in Newham Leisure Centre in Stratford, way back, I think it was like 2006. And I just kind of stumbled in this yoga class. I don't even think I knew it was a yoga class. I just kind of stumbled into it. I just went to a class during the day. I think it must have been a Wednesday or something. And there was just like little old ladies there, and then there was me. And anyone of color knows, generally when you walk into a studio, you're going to be the only black person or person of color in there. And obviously I was on that Wednesday afternoon or whatever. And it was, I guess it was like a hatha class or something. And I don't know, do you know what? It sounds ridiculous. I was probably expecting something. I don't know if I think I knew what to really expect from yoga. I probably thought it was something like aerobics or something. And right? And then I walked into a hatha class, and I just remember walking out of there thinking, not for me, never again. And I didn't do it again for years. And then a friend of mine who way back then, we went to uni together, and I remember he kind of said, oh my God, there's this new type of yoga, you must give it a try. And I was like, I've done the yoga thing that one time. I'm not going to put myself through it again. And he was like, no, seriously, give it a go. You'll be surprised. And it was a Bikram class. Okay. And I went to a Bikram class with him in, I think it was in Old Street, where they used to have a studio there. And it's one of those things. And he said as well, he's like, you're either going to love it or you hate it. And I loved it. And it was the fact that it was like, I was scared when I was there waiting to go into the class, and it was hot. Obviously it's 40 degrees. And I was like, am I going to be able to do it? And it was just that sense of achievement of being able to get through and not pass out, And yes, and then I was kind of into Bikram for a long time. And that was kind of my way in to yoga now. That's where it all began. I kind of I'm kind of probably still have the same trait, all or nothing kind of person. So, at that point I was like, I'd hit the, yoga, I'd be going to Bikram constantly, like full on all the time. I'd get the unlimited, and I'd go all the time, and then forget to go one time, and then suddenly that was it. Like, I wouldn't go for 6 months. Right? It happens, and you're like, what happened? Like,
peaks
I'm
and
sorry.
troughs.
Right? Exactly. And that happened up and down for a number of years. And I never knew do you know what? It wasn't, I can't even pinpoint exactly the point in which something switched for me in Bikram. But I think it was just the kind of meditative sense to the practice, where you're silent. It's a silent practice, and you're with yourself. And for me, working full time at the time in London, it was just the idea that I could switch the world off, switch London off for like an hour and a half, and just be in myself for that time. And I think that's what kept me going. And fast forward to.
Just before you fast forward, what year was that Bikram class?
Bikram? Probably, I want to say so 2006 was the first time I went, maybe a year or two later, so probably 2000.
Okay. 2006 was my first class too. Okay.
Yeah. So.
And what were you working as full-time? What was the full-time job?
My full time was a support officer. So I worked in the borough, 2 boroughs. I was doing the job for 10 years, working as a float and support worker. So working with predominantly people presenting with homeless issues, present themselves homeless to the council. And I worked for one housing group. So our job was to basically support these people with the various social needs, and provide advocacy or work with different agencies, and just in order to prevent them from becoming homeless on a permanent basis. So you'd be working with, if you think about what kind of situations people would find themselves homeless, so it could be anything from mental health, substance misuse, domestic violence, and so anyone with any kind of social issue. So I worked in Haringey it was more single people without children. And then in Hackney, in the borough, I worked with specifically single people and families. So it was roughly about 5 years in each borough.
Okay, thank you. So when did you realize you wanted to teach yoga beyond the other side of the mat?
I realized I wanted to teach I thought about this earlier, and I thought to myself, when I did my teacher training, I did not want to teach yoga. Okay. So in answer to your question, it wasn't when I started my teacher training, it was actually when I did my assessment at the end of my teacher training. And as part of your assessment, you had to teach a class. And I think throughout the entire 3 months that I was doing this training, and from the beginning thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I good enough? And all of this, and going through all the stuff that you go through. And my training was in London. And so, working full time, giving up your weekends and evenings, and just, being a part of this world that was scary but exciting at the same time. And then at the end we had to, obviously you're only teaching your peers, everyone in the on training with you, but that was it was just I just remember finishing teaching and just being like, that was the best thing. That was just the best thing that I had done for a long time, in sharing what I loved. And it was probably, looking back, one of my worst classes. But at the time, it was, I can't believe I was able to like tell people what to do at the same time as, well, obviously at the time you were just doing the class with them, but you know, I was thinking, I can't believe they actually listened, and I only messed up a couple of times, and I was just like, oh my God,
that's like life,
right? Just, it was just the best feeling, and it was something that I didn't think I would have been able to achieve at the beginning of it. And again, it's that kind of sense of achievement. It was just, and I think it was a turning point for me, also kind of coming into myself, coming into my power, and just kind of going, okay, this is, you know, for, like I said, for 10 years, I was working in the community and I was supporting people, but this was a different type of support now, and I was walking into something different. So I think that kind of realization and all of that stuff came at the end of that training. So yeah, that was when I kind of thought, I could do this. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be all right at this. Yeah, right? Like, oh, maybe this is something that I could work towards, like on a serious level.
So are you happy to share where and whom the yoga teacher training was with?
Yes, of course. My teacher training, most of my trainings have been with the yoga people.
Okay.
I decided to do, I guess, most of my trainings with them because obviously once you've done your 200 hours, to go on to do your 500 hours, it gets a bit sticky when you're kind of moving from school to school and like your hours don't add up properly. So I just kind of, you know, I did my 200 hours with them, and you know, they were coming up with like really exciting kind of advanced trainings that I was really interested to learn more about. And and it was also for me at the time, I guess I was still working full time. So it was when I did the advanced now, I was able to travel with it as well. So go abroad and do the different trainings, and which I kind of took advantage of whilst I still had the full-time job. So that was, yeah. And that was again something that was in my mind, was like, I want to get as much training as under my belt as possible. Obviously it was a bonus, I was able to work towards the 500 hours whilst I was still working full time. And then I was like, okay, now I'm equipped. I feel like I can sort of go out into this London scene, because that was one of the things that kind of a lot of my teacher friends who were on my training, I witnessed them kind of hustle, you know, those early days after we finished the training. And I mean, I fortunately didn't have to hustle as much because I guess they kind of did it for me, and I just watched it and learned.
I hear you with the hustle.
Right? Yeah.
I hear you with the hustle.
And I'm not, you know, the hustle's still there now, but like, do you know what, Yvonne, I've been so lucky because I think right from the get-go, I kind of dipped my toe into it after my training. I think one of my teachers, after finished the training, even though I wasn't planning to teach full-time, he said, don't drop the ball. I think Jamie said, don't drop the ball. Just keep the momentum going. And if you drop it, then you're going to find it difficult to come back onto it. So that's what I did. I kind of just kept doing, I was teaching, started teaching more yoga.
Amazing. Yeah.
So like having the 1 or 2 classes a week or something here and there, and covering where I could at different studios. And I think that kind of meant that I was still there, but not fully there, you know. And so when it came to teaching full time, I was not just stepping into a completely new world. So yeah.
Which of the overseas trainings springs to mind the most? The one that springs to mind the most will be the Mandala teacher training. The Mandala was the first, we were the first group when the yoga people kind of did the training. And in a great way, we were like super excited. This is something that no one
is done in London, and and we had no clue what we were going to walk into. And you had the Temescal and all the rituals, all the shamanic rituals that we're going to be a part of. But with that in mind, we were also like guinea pigs, because they hadn't really done this with anyone else before. So we were like, they were testing everything out on us and testing out our reactions, and how long they would leave us in this sweat lodge for. Some people were like freaking out and running out, and it was all kind of, it was all an experiment with us. But then it was a great time to be a part of it, because again, we all helped shape it.
Where was it? Oh, it was overseas.
It was in India.
India, okay. Which part?
Goa.
Goa, okay.
Yes, so when they do their trainings in India, they do them at the dunes.
Okay.
People, so it's the same place that where they've done many of their trainings before. But it was that springs to mind again, because it was just and I remember 𝗀𝗃 kept saying, like, everyone on this training, these are the crazies. These are the crazy people that we've taught. All the crazies are coming back on one training. They were like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But yeah, just the energy. Everyone was excited to be there. And again, it was, I think it was probably like a couple of years after I did my was it a couple of years, maybe a year or so after I did my 200 hours. So like in that time, you've spent some time getting to know quite a few people in the scene, and then we all kind of decided to go on a training together. So it was a really nice time and great community of teachers. So yeah.
So we kind of see the stereotype that on, yoga is kind of whitewashed. It doesn't have the diversity. Thinking back to your training, how many people of color were actually on your training?
Yeah, okay. On my training, I think I was the only Black female. There was perhaps 2 Asian people.
Okay. Out of how many?
I think there was like probably like coming up to a good 30 who started.
Yeah.
Not ended, but I think something. So yeah, completely. I mean, with those kind of numbers, it's completely, in my view, it's very representative again of what you see in the studios. And that's across the board. But is it whitewash? But I think for me, it's. I think what, again, MoreYoga try to do is make it very inclusive by, not having it so elitist and the pricing and everything.
Definitely.
That already
definitely,
all right, and it shouldn't be that only when you can pay the big money that you get good classes, or you can get any classes at all. And also making sure it's in these different areas, not just in central London, or making it accessible on many different levels. So I think that's really something that's important. And again, like I said, I worked with my background is working with people from deprived areas, and that's what that for me was one of the things that I wanted to see happen, or bring to, because obviously I was, again, people who I used to work with, they were like, and a lot of people in my life are kind of like peace and her yoga thing, it's kind of, she does this weird yoga stuff, she's over there. But I remember when I was working in social care and working with, whether it be young people or just people in these boroughs, I'm going off on one a bit, but I think
please carry on. Please do carry on. It's your stage.
Because when I mentioned that I worked in Haringey and Hackney, I think sometimes we have this impression of Haringey being, Muswell Hill, Crouch End, and then you think about Hackney and you think, oh, how, you know, how affluent it is, and some parts of it is, but you know, when, and I remember saying it, and I'll say it again, when I was working and when I worked within these groups, like my view of the boroughs is very different. I see very different things of the borough. You know, Hackney's got one of the highest number of hostels, for instance, in the country, like, which is ridiculous because it's one of the smallest boroughs in London. So, you know, with the borough so small, having such a high number of hostels, what does that tell you? That these are homeless hostels. There's a large number of homeless people living in the borough. There's a lot of poverty in this borough. And same with, you know, and how these boroughs differ. Again, you've got a very rich borough like Haringey, but Haringey split.
It's diverse, completely.
Yeah.
You have the haves and the have-nots in the one big borough.
You've got the ladder, and it just splits the haves and the have-nots, exactly. So, you know, the areas in which I worked and people which I saw on a daily basis whilst I was working in these boroughs were not the people who would be able to afford these expensive prices in these more, these more higher end yoga studios, and it's a shame. So for me, I see it, and like, and also there is part of me that kind of feels like I want to do more to bring it and make it more accessible, but then there's part of you that also feels like, have I sold out in a way by do you know what I mean? Like, am I not doing enough? Can I not do enough to bring people, my people, or the people who are not having this beautiful practice in their lives? Can I do more? Is there more that can be done to make it more accessible for them? So yeah. I don't know what the question was, but
no, you've answered it. It's fine. So we're now moving on to the highs and lows of the wellness industry. And when I say highs and lows of wellness industry, in fact, pause for a second. Thanks once again for everybody being here. I should have said at the start, we're going to hold any questions until the end. So if you think of a question, you can drop it in the chat box, and then we'll come to them at the end, do a little bit of a Q&A. So apologies for not saying that. So coming back to you, 𝗶𝗄, you know, thanks so much for being here this evening. It means a lot, you know, being the first guest on.
Thank you.
You're
so
most
much.
welcome. So start thinking about and sharing highs and lows of the wellness industry. And I just literally need to go and turn the noise off in the background. So I'm going to turn my camera off, but keep talking.
Yes.
The audience is there. Ignore me for the minute. And highs and lows of the wellness industry.
Okay. So, right. So, oh, hello. Hi, it's nice to have a face. Thank you. Right. So the highs of the wellness industry. I'll start with the lows first, and then I'll end on a high, I think. I think most people know, I think one of the lows on a personal level for me has obviously been very recently, whereby, and I'll say why that's got to do with the wellness industry. I think it's because, you know, obviously I'm within the wellness industry, and for me, a lot of what the world is about now, and how we, as teachers or professionals within this industry, have to now navigate our careers is online, and we have to use these platforms whereby which, you know, they're not second nature to most of us. They're not. It's a struggle, and you know, as a yoga teacher, again, I've mentioned before, I've been fortunate to be involved in a number of things that I'm not normally exposed to. That, you know, I told you about my background, so these things are new to me. So having my pictures taken, for instance, that picture alone was taken by a photographer, Max, and because I teach for Block, so that was part of what, you know, they put together. And he's a professional photographer. That's what he does, and also he's one of the owners. So that image that was stolen was off again during a time whereby, as teachers and wellness professionals, our income is, like, you know, been halted. You know, everyone's going through this financial just paused. The world is paused financially.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know what I mean? Because of COVID. And so everyone's struggling, and then, you know, we're going to come on to it later, but, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and like Blackout Tuesday, you know, all of these things are contentious issues, and these things are like in the highest, you know, they're really heightened in that time. And for me, on a personal level, again, from many different levels, they were coming up and things were like really bubbling up. And then it was the way in which I actually found out, because someone said to me today, I was talking to a friend of mine, she said, how did you actually find out about that? And I was like, I'd finished teaching a Zoom class, and then I'd got an email, a message from a friend of mine, and she got an email, and she was just like, hey, she's like, oh my God, guess who showed up in my inbox today? Just like that, as you would. And I was like, what's she talking about? And then she sent me that screenshot, and I was just like, what the fuck? And can you imagine, like, I'm like, firstly, how did they get hold of the picture? And now they've sent it out to, I'd never heard of 𝘂𝗶𝗄 before that. So then now they've sent it out to God knows who. I don't know who the company's about, who they are, why they feel that they have the right to use my image without my permission, all this stuff. And then in that moment, when I start to look into it, and straight away I contacted the photographer, he was like, no, I didn't. But then clearly it came from my Instagram. So then at this point, I'm like just fuming. And so my first instinct was, obviously, can you like contact them, because it was for him to do, it was his image. He has a copyright over the image. And so this is obviously gone. This is, I won't bore us all in the details, and, you know, if anyone wants to know.
Please, you share what you want to share, you know.
I mean, I think it's just
your story, your journey, you share what you want to share.
Thank you. I think, do you know what, to be fair, everyone, I think because it's such, it's an issue that's something that's kind of been over my head for like, honestly, I was talking to my friend Francesca just last week, and she called me, and I think everything has just been like, you know, when you're just about having enough, and everything had just been like, it got this pressure cooker just got to be so full. And it was after a week of going back and forth in emails with this woman who has already told people out there that I'm attacking her, that because, you know, and, you know, really gaslighting me on many different levels, many different ways, and a week of back and forth emails whereby she's now wanting me to have a conversation with her, when already the one attempt at a conversation, the person who called me, one of the first things she said to me was, I'm not calling for an argument. And I'm like, I'm not exactly right. I'm not trying to argue with you. I was like, it's 10 minutes before I'm about to teach a class, and you decide to call me now when you've ignored me all week. So I really don't have time to take this call right now. But you can, I directed her straight to the email. Please respond to the emails that I've sent to you. So this is my one experience of having a conversation with them. This is what it's blown up to be about. And then, so when, having spent a week of going back and forth, and every time you send an email, obviously you're waiting for that response to come back, and it's the anxiety, or even just putting together the email. And every time you're doing that, I'm having to explain myself. I'm having to justify.
It's taking your energy.
Every single time. And then for it to met with just her not wanting to like take anything on board, you know. And then she comes back with something like, you know, oh, you know, she takes one of the last correspondence I had with her. She got back and she said something. She didn't get back to me for like 2 days. And I sent her an email just saying like, can you please confirm whether you'd received like the email, and, you know, when I should expect a response from you. And she got back to me and she said, oh, the kids are off, and, you know, I'm having childcare issues. And, you know, this is a week whereby you've dragged me into this, you know, this dialogue of going back and forth. And then she just spilled about how I'm disturbing her life, basically. And that was after a week of like, you know, when you're just like, I've had enough of this situation. And then she's like, let me know when you're free to talk, and is how she left it. And I just thought, you haven't read any of that last email that I sent you, that long email where I'd explained in so many, which I keep explaining in so many different ways, why I can't have a phone conversation with you, and this needs to happen in, in black and white. So this is, I just want to like round it off, and like, this is by far not something that I ever envisaged that I'd be going through. It's not something that, like, it's even difficult for me to like associate it with the health and wellness industry, because of like, it's actually damaged my mental health, my emotional well-being. It's been something that's been a struggle, especially when the world is like this right now. And I kind of at times feel like, why I don't need to be going through this right now, at any other time but now. But I think, I think the sad thing about it is these things happen, and that when we think about companies, and the highs and lows, why this, for me, this is a low, because this is, I am struggling to try and make ends meet like everyone else. And, I'm not saying that my issues are more important than anyone else's, but certainly on a level that like we are all here trying to get by, I think I need to, it needs to be quite clear that like I, like everyone else, deserves to get paid for my work, or
your image.
My image, my image. That's not even on a level that like you're using me basically, because your company had, firstly, the company itself, a yoga teacher friend of mine, she had written her an email. She works in PR, and she wrote her an marketing. So she wrote an email, and they ended up having a conversation, and she'd said to her like, so they had a conversation about the whole situation, and like, she was, her response was that, can you believe how much I'm getting charged, or how much the invoice was? And I invoiced her, but I invoiced for a figure that was agreed by the photographer, because I asked the photographer, how much would you charge for an image? And I'll tell you what his answers was. He said, for an image, he said, my pictures, to have someone, if it was an agreed amount, if I took a picture of an object, and it was an agreed figure, he said it was between £200 and £300 for one of his pictures.
Because it was agreed up front.
Yeah, because it was agreed up front. He said, now she took an image that I took with a model in it, which wasn't agreed up front. Yeah. So unauthorized.
Unauthorized.
He said, I would charge them between £800 and £1,000. His fees, his rate. So she's then turned around and she's like, she's trying to scam us, how dare she, like putting it on me. And so hence when I wrote that, and I made it quite clear, the invoice, what I'm invoicing you for is his fee. If you have a problem with his fee, then you take it up with him. This is when we start taking things that don't belong to us, this is the mess that we start getting ourselves into. Is that when we don't know how much something costs, and you think that you have the right over anyone else to use it as you will. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues, and I feel like I've just gone off on one again.
No, you haven't. This is your conversation. Please don't apologize. It's like, this is what you're going through right now, and this is why Yoga Journeys is just so very important, because this is your journey. So we want to hear it. Whatever you want to share, we want to hear it. And I'm really sorry you're having to go through this awful situation.
No, do you know what it is? Like I said, I can't, it's such a weird thing, because this is not what I understand, this part of it. And so this is why it's so low, the industry, is because we are being, as yoga teachers or health professionals, having to promote yourself, having to use these platforms, but then we don't know, like, this is one of the things that I've going forward that I've learned is, you know, protecting your images. And
Yes.
you know, one of the first things I did was, you know, and you guys need to do it as well, if you're using Instagram, have it in black and white. And since I've done this, anyone who's actually used my images, they've actually messaged me directly and asked them, so you need to have it right there, like these images belong.
What's your message? Share the message. What have you put on?
Yeah. It's just quite simple. Let me, I think it just reads something like, the pictures belong to me, and if you want to use them, you need to ask. Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
that's simple. What do you put it at the start of each post?
It's this in my bio.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
Okay,
there you go, everyone. Hot off the press. There's some advice from Pete.
So it's just, it basically says all images owned by me cannot use without permission, and it's
excellent.
Simple.
That's good. And people have been requesting now.
People request. People
excellent.
will send you a message and request before, and again, this is since all of this, and I think, you know, I've had, you know, some people have said, you know, why don't you get some legal advice? I have had legal advice. I've spoken to, and she was like, with companies like this, and I agree. It's, you know, it's about teaching them a lesson, and it's about making sure they, you know, if I walk away from this and they don't do this, or at least they think about it, because that was it. One of the things that Claire had said to her was, before you did something like this, did you not even think to show someone of colour in your office what you were about to do? We've got nobody of colour in our office.
Oh, okay.
So this is the company who, so then when you're talking about, you know, there's been, you know, there's that question of, oh, you know, are they using it for that matter? You know, when it's like, they really are. There was no real diversity in any of their images prior to 2nd of June. You know, and then
when they took yours.
When they took mine, and you know, fair enough, maybe they have started using some black models here and there, but then again, it's like the point is still this: you still haven't admitted to what you did here. And you know, what really frustrates me, it's this kind of idea that they can just go, oh, you know, it was a mistake, you know, we thought you'd be happy with it, which is one of the first responses that I got, was like,
they thought you'd be happy. Okay.
Yeah, most people are just happy that we mentioned them. And so, which is a real contradiction to how they've later now started responding, which is that it was an intern who made that mistake. So was it an intern who made the mistake, or did you be happy with using the image? Which one is it? Like, you know, it can't be both.
How have you managed to keep your spirits up and keep yourself as high as you can? I know you're saying it's affected your mental health, but how have you managed to navigate the time?
Do you know, it's support.
Okay.
Support from people.
Good.
And it's been the unlikeliest, like, you know, I think I mentioned to you earlier, I'm not, you know, as much as I've been on, you know, in the social media, I don't know what I'm doing, you know.
Does anybody?
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't come from this world. So like, I have literally been like, you know, just, you know, I've been lucky to have been, had my pictures taken with some really lovely photographers, you know, and I've had these, some done for free, which has been amazing. And I've been so grateful for all of that. And then like prior to COVID, you know, I think it was even like last year, I was just getting like the whole idea about promoting classes and Instagram. So literally prior to like, I think it was March this year, the last time I posted on Instagram was like September.
Okay.
Yeah, I was literally like, I can't be bothered with this. And then got back from Bali and it was like, this is your world now. So you have to
crack on. You have to crack on. Okay.
Yeah. And
so, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So in answer to your question, like how have I coped? This is what has really surprised me, is the support that I've received, because I post and I don't think anyone really listens at the best of times, and then suddenly when I posted on that day, the overwhelming number of support that I've received from there, up until today. And it just, it's just been, it is this, every single person, and I can't stress it enough, every single person or every single, any little like for me is someone's thinking about you, someone. So for that, from the 8th of July until until now, and every single person who is even so much as written to them or privately messaged me, whatever, it means it's something that is something, it's an expense of my energy that doesn't need to be me. I'm being held, and every time that happens, it's just like I can breathe a little bit, you know, because this has been the heaviest thing. And so this is how I've coped. It's and at the same time, YVONNE, it's been hard because it's like it has been the level of like input is been something that I'm not used to. Like I said, for me, my phone is usually text, emails, and the odd social media here and there. But then the amount of input that I've had to kind of get used to in such a short space of time has been, and it's not something that I want to continue to do on all the time. But just that support from people, support from friends, just knowing that you're held, knowing that you're not doing it by yourself. It's the community, and it's the community, to be precise. So yeah.
Okay, so what's the high of the wellness industry?
The high for me is just being doing what I love. Doing a practice that I love with other teachers, with students, with people who are new, people who are curious, people. Me, my favorites are those who are new to the practice, because I remember myself in them. I remember that me who walked into that class with those old biddies, and I walked out. So I tried to grab them before. So I remember the kind of
hook them in.
That's my challenge, and I'm like, I'm gonna get you. So I love that's just being do you know what, I'm lucky to be able to do something like this. There's not, as a Black female too, right? It's not, it's a hard business. But I am lucky to be where I am with it. And so the highs are, they outweigh the lows of the best of times. Yeah.
Marvelous. And what would your one ask of the wellness industry?
Well, my one ask of the wellness industry would be,
if there is one that springs to mind.
Yeah. Just this idea that do you know what, for me, what my gripe is, as much as sometimes the wellness industry likes to think it's inclusive, it's not. And just, I would say that understand that there isn't a yoga type of person. Yogis come in different forms. And so if someone, you get the flinch, or you eat meat, or you do you know what I mean? All of
the stereotypes.
Not every yogi, just because I eat meat does not mean I'm a bad yogi, just because I do this or that, do you know what I mean? So this kind of, I just think, let go of that nonsense, because that's damaging. That's really, really damaging on many different levels. And I think one of the annoying things that I found, especially, I just don't care so much about it now anyway, but at the beginning was people, oh, you're a yoga teacher. Oh, but you don't act like a yoga teacher. Oh, but you eat meat. Oh, but I thought you're a yoga teacher, And this idea that you need to be a certain way or be like the others in order to be to fit that mold. So I just think, get rid of that mold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So moving on to Black Lives Matters movement. So rest in peace, George Floyd.
Yes.
How many additional followers have you received, and how many studios have been contacting you in the light of diversifying feeds and diversifying studios?
Do you know what? To be fair, I think the studios that I've continued to teach, for, they're the studios that I was teaching for before.
Okay.
So it's not like any new studios have been in touch, and
Okay.
Going back, I've been, I've gone back to teach with studios that I have previously taught for. So I wouldn't say that. Maybe there is an element of that. Maybe there is, but I think also it's been. You know what? Like.
So no, definitely no new studio approaches.
No.
But did you notice an increase in followers on Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, I have, but they're more recently since I posted about
with the 𝘀𝗵𝗿.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the two are the same thing, the same issue right here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, but I have had an increase of followers since then. But then, funny enough, because a friend of mine told me to like change my account. This is how basic my account was, so change it to a business account. So then you can see all that information.
Yes. Yeah. Get all the analytics.
Yes, exactly. Interestingly, you're asking about how many followers I gained, and then it was only like a couple of weeks ago I realized I lost like 17 followers. So as much as I've gained.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I probably have gained more than I have lost, but it would be like, obviously it doesn't tell you who you've lost, but my only assumption is it's through the same issue. Like, you gain some and you lose some. So I'm like, the ones who have lost.
Life.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Okay. So last question before we invite Q&A. What's the rest of 2020 looking like for you? Anything you want to share? Projects, plans? Rest of the year?
Teaching, increasing my teaching. My plan is to try and get my head around this whole online stuff.
Okay.
Wish me luck with that, because I have no idea what I'm doing, like I said.
When you say get your head around the online stuff, what in particular do you mean?
Well, I just want to like, as much as obviously at the beginning of the lockdown, it was like everyone jumped online, and then now I want to kind of sustain that kind of level of teaching. I'm down to 3 classes online as of this week, but I want to keep it at 3 classes.
Yeah.
But so I want to keep that and keep that an ongoing thing. So that's my kind of goal. I'm also thinking about kind of not dipping my toe, but then no, I'm not thinking about it. I'm actually doing. I've applied to do go into doing psychotherapy and counselling.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's my plan, to go into that field as well.
Starting this year.
Starting this year.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay. Take a breather, have some water, have some juice, and let's see what questions we got in the box. So there's probably some comments as well. So Barry, we're going to start from the top. So I need to get my glasses off for this bit. So we've got a few comments in here. Okay, so a comment from Shanae. Hey, peace and Yvonne, thank you so much for sharing all the good work. You are awesome teachers, and it's good to hear about the background. So sorry I can't stay longer. Okay, sorry, let me just say. So from Beck, it's symptomatic of people thinking they can take what they like. So this is probably talking about 𝘀𝗵𝗿, but let's not give you any more worries there. But thank you. Okay, does anybody have a question to drop in the box, as I'm finding some more? So Beck sending love. She had to duck out to put her little girl to bed. And that's it.
Yeah.
I think, let me just go down to the bottom. I have to navigate these questions better next time. Or the box. No, that's it. That's it at the bottom. So happy to take any questions. we won't pull teeth.
Yeah.
If there's a question, please drop it in the box. If not, we will thank you so much for joining and say farewell. And on the 24th, it will be another yoga journey with Misha Patel, another MoreYoga teacher. So, any questions? I can see nothing popping into the box. Okay, big thanks for sharing. Thank you, Tor. Very kind. Okay, so everybody's saying thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. It means so much. I mean, the waiting room said there were 3 people, so I was so pleased to see so many of you here. So that's really lovely. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
See you next time. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks so much. Thanks, Donna. Thanks for joining. Right, let's just see the goodbyes. So you can see the chat as well, can't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to end this and I'll just ring you.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Take care. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.